Week in Big Sky Basketball as we take you around the conference for all the latest in Big Sky hoops. Now, here's your host, Scott Gerard.
Hey, welcome on in. It's another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm your host, Scott Gerard. Another great show on tap for you today. Idaho State Seton Sobolewski will join us coming up a little bit later on in the show, as will Colter Nuanez of Skyline Sports. But we start things off with Southern Utah's men's basketball coach, Todd Simon, who joins us now on the Sports Graphics phone line. Coach, how are you?
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having me.
Hey, the pleasure's all ours. You're coming off a big home win over Northern Arizona. Let's talk about that game. How'd that play out for you?
Well, we finally put together 40 good minutes without some of the lulls that we kind of experienced throughout the year, and we're getting a little more healthy. Truthfully, we've had a rash of injuries and some hobbled guys, so we kind of were starting to get closer to full strength, and I thought that was a difference in the game, having that depth and not having some drop offs when we gave up runs and that sort of thing. So it felt good to put a good 40 minutes together.
You came to Southern Utah from UNLV. You also served there as the interim head coach. I know that was not a tremendous amount of time there to be the main guy, but what did that experience do to kind of help you prepare for this job?
Well, sitting in that seat and even previous head coaching experience, you get an appreciation for different circumstances that come up, and it really kind of reaffirms what you believe and who you are, and we had some adverse situations there during that stretch, and I think more than anything, it just solidified exactly what we want to be about and what we want the program to be about going forward, and taking that experience here, I think it just kind of gave that extra bit of confidence that, hey, this is what we want to be about. This is exactly who we are from a basketball standpoint, from a culture standpoint, and it was an invaluable experience.
What was it about the Southern Utah job that attracted you to come to Cedar City?
Well, there was a commitment from the top, and I had opportunity to go through the process with a couple schools, and doing so, you kind of start to realize what's a good fit for you as a coach, and here the opportunity to build something, and have a legacy and start something a little bit from the ground up. As there's some struggles here, and over the last little bit, and not getting in the win column and all those good things, and from an administrative standpoint, from the president on down to the AD, and everyone here is supportive and wanting to really get this program off the ground and have it be a flagship, and so that part of it is very exciting. It's a community of growth and great people and everything that we want to stand for, and those things are really intriguing. I think we're going to be able to do it.
Randy Nuanez has turned out to be one of the best players on your team, but also turning out to be a tremendous player in this conference. Let's talk a little bit about his development and where he's come from and what he needs to do to develop to become the player you hope he becomes there at Southern Utah.
Well, he's been nothing short of spectacular, and for him to face double teams and traps and denials every game, and still consistently get us 20 to 30 points every night, and he filled up the rebounding stat sheet and steals, deflections, and we really ask him to do it all, and he does it, and he does it without with joy and showing some good leadership capabilities. So his evolution from spring to now has been impressive, and as we look forward, he's a guy that we can lean on, and he wants the big moments, and everything that he does is within the context of the team, and there's no one that works harder. He's in this gym all day long, and he's been one of the hardest working guys I've ever coached, and that part of it helps you turn around the culture of your team.
You had 2 weeks left in the regular season before the trip down to Reno. Let's talk about what your team needs to do to get, to finish strong and to be playing your best basketball going into that conference tournament.
we need to continue to just settle into our roles. I mean, we've had so many injuries that we haven't had everyone in their natural position and the natural rotation that we envisioned. And I think Saturday was kind of the first time where it felt like sub patterns were a little bit more envisioned, and we're able to do some things that are more consistent. And I think that consistency is going to help us. And having Ray Parsons back gives us the added perimeter experience. So now all of a sudden we're able to put a team out there that's a little more consistent on both ends of the floor. And I think for as we approach conference tournament play, we'll put in some wrinkles and we'll kind of continue to do some things and evolve and make our team hard to guard and be a little difficult to prepare for. But when you're experiencing some injury issues, you don't get to really put a lot of new stuff in because you have so many guys out of practice, and that's where we're excited right now. We feel like we finally have that breakthrough.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Congratulations on the recent success. Keep it rolling. We look forward to catching up with you down in Reno.
Thank you so much for having me.
You got it. Southern Utah head men's basketball coach Todd Simon here on the Sports Graphics phone line. Sports Graphics, the official graphics provider for the Big Sky Conference. Before we move on, let's take a look at last week's results in men's basketball action. Montana split the weekend series with a loss to Sacramento State and a win over Portland State, while Montana State picked up 2 wins over Sac State and the Vikings. Idaho State dropped 2 games to Northern Colorado and North Dakota. Southern Utah topped NAU, and Eastern Washington took down rival Idaho. And finally, the big game of the week, North Dakota picked up wins over Idaho State and then Weber State. And don't look now, North Dakota is now your Big Sky men's basketball leader. We'll take a short break, return with Idaho State's Seton Sobolewski. You're listening to another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
What makes a Big Sky champion? Is it toughness? Is it competitiveness? Is it community? Is it achievement? Or is it sportsmanship? All these attributes live in the heart of a Big Sky champion. We're the Big Sky Conference.
Welcome back. It's segment number 2 of This Week in Big Sky Basketball. I'm Scott Gerard. Hey, if you haven't downloaded the Big Sky Conference app, go to the App Store or Google Play now. There'll be exclusive content inside the Big Sky Conference app for the Road to Reno, so make sure to get on that on your phones ASAP. All right, time to take a look at women's basketball in the Big Sky Conference. We'll be joined here in just a moment by Idaho State coach Seton Sobolewski. But first, let's take a look back on the previous weekend. North Dakota going 2-0 last weekend as the Fighting Hawks earned home wins over Weber State and Northern Colorado. Portland State, the other team to go 2-0 as the Vikings beat both Montana and Montana State. Sacramento State splitting with the Montanas, while Montana State defeated Sac State. Then Northern Arizona getting a big win over rival Southern Utah, and Idaho with a big win over Eastern Washington. And finally, Idaho State, after losing a close game at North Dakota, earns a big-time win over Weber State. And with that, let's go out to the phone lines. Welcome in the head coach of the Idaho State Bengals, Seton Sobolewski. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. First off, your win over against Northern Colorado on Saturday, kind of showed that your team is capable of winning some big games and big situations. Does this kind of build a foundation for your team going forward?
Yeah, I think so. It's really surprising, that we just keep stepping up. We've had some setbacks with injuries and such, and, losing Sailor Grandin and Brooke Blair at the beginning of the year. And we've had some freshmen who just really step up and do some things. And it's usually you don't really count on new people until their sophomore year, but we've got a couple people who are really kind of filling in the gap.
You mentioned you lost some players there in the preseason, but you've rebounded since to be now in a position to potentially earn that first-round bye in the league tournament. Is that something you talk about as you look towards, or are you just in one game at a time mode?
We're definitely one game at a time. We don't want to look too far ahead. We just want to focus on what are we doing right now and what do we need to improve and who do we have this week and what do we have to do this week to put ourselves in position to win. And if we end up getting a bye, great. But I think there's a benefit to getting the bye, but there's also a benefit to playing that first game. You get in tournament mode, after that first game, and I think sometimes in that second round you have an advantage over somebody who's been sitting out.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. Last year, Bengals were a 9 seed, advanced all the way to the championship game. How much fun was that journey like as you just kept winning and advancing? And can you take those lessons and apply them to this year's tournament run?
It was a great experience, really fun, and very proud of our team last year. I'm very happy for our seniors, Epiphany Woods and Tressa Lyman and Annalie Palaciccio. But we still have a lot of players on this year's team that went through that experience, so they kind of know what it's like and what to expect. And I think that'll benefit us.
Seton Sobolewski, head coach at Idaho State, joining us here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. There's a few different players on your roster who just keep getting better. In your mind, who are some of your most improved players this season?
Well, I think first off is Stephania Orrs, who's a freshman. She started off the season really hot. She scored 23 at Santa Clara, went 7 for 10 shooting, and then she had another game where she scored 16 against a Final Four participant, Oregon State. And she's kind of went through some ups and downs as a freshman, but lately she's been playing really well. Last week in the 2 games against North Dakota and Northern Colorado, she averaged 16 points a game, and just keeps learning, keeps getting better and better. Freshman Bianca Thacker, I think she's really stepped up and shown that she can contribute in a lot of different ways. And then, one person I've just been really impressed with and surprised about the whole year was Grace Kenyon. She's out a whole year with her second ACL injury on the same knee, and she's stepped up to rebound well, to get better. Right now she's leading us as an assist. There's been times where she's led us in scoring and rebounding. And so I think those 3 kind of stand out the most.
You look at the standings. You're locked up with Eastern Washington and Idaho, and interesting enough, you have them at home this weekend. These are critical games. What's the message to the team going into another crazy weekend?
Well, I think it's still just another game at a time. And it'll eventually get you there. You can get really pumped up and, maybe find a way of winning the 2 games this week. But then if you lose your 2 games next week, you still could be out of that 4th place spot. So, we're just a game at a time. And we managed, we found a way to beat Idaho last time. And I don't know if we can do it again, but we'll see. And Eastern beat us at their place last time. So we need to figure out what we did wrong in that game and see how we can play them better.
Tournament format changed a little bit last year. Definitely changed how teams have viewed the regular season. Does this change any part about how you manage your teams going into the tournament?
I think it does somewhat. You can't. I don't think you can still keep going 2-3 hour practices every 6 days a week, going all the way up into the conference tournament. You'll just. The team will be worn down by then, I think. And I think you just got to, if you know you're going to go in as a lower seed and you're going to have to play every day, every other day, you really got to manage, people's health and injuries as best you can.
What are a couple things you feel like you can work on that you can get better at over the next 2 weeks to really make sure that your team's playing their best basketball going into Reno?
The whole season we've been the top defensive team and top rebounding team in the Big Sky, and we've got to keep that strong. That has to be our foundation. But we're continuing to try to find ways of improving on offense, which we have here and there. We've had some games where we've played well. At Northern Colorado, we shot 52%, which you'll take that any day of the week. But we've got to still find ways of scoring points. We'll defend well. It's just, can you put up enough points to put yourself in position to win?
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and good luck the rest of the way. Look forward to chatting with you down in Reno.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
You got it. Idaho State coach Seton Sobolewski here on the Sports Graphic phone lines. Once again, Sports Graphics, your official graphics provider of the Big Sky Conference. All right, let's take a look at what we got coming up this weekend in Big Sky women's basketball. As we mentioned, Idaho State at Weber State. They've got Eastern Washington and Idaho. Big games there for the Bengals. Northern Arizona and Southern Utah host Sacramento State and Portland State. Then you got a pair of travel partner games, Montana and Montana State. Always a fun one in that game. And Northern Colorado takes on North Dakota. All right, take our final break. Coming up next, Colter Nuanez in our final segment. We'll also give you a look back at the tiebreaker scenarios for tournament seedings that are right there when we come back right here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. The road to Reno is here. March 6, 2017, the Big Sky Conference will descend upon Reno, Nevada for the 2017 Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball Championships. Go to roadtoreno.com to book tickets and accommodations for Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball. Be a part of the thrill of Big Sky Men's and Women's Basketball and join the road to Reno.
Back to This Week in Big Sky Basketball.
Welcome back This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Before we welcome in Colter Nuanez, let's take a look at the upcoming men's basketball schedule. Weber State and Idaho State ahead to the Palouse to face off Idaho and Eastern Washington. Portland State and Sac State will host Southern Utah and NAU on Saturday. Two rivalry games highlight the schedule, with Northern Colorado hosting North Dakota and Montana State hosting Montana. And who better to chat about that game? Colter Nuanez from Skyline Sports joining us here on This Week in Big Sky Basketball. Colter, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. How you doing, Scott?
I'm good. Hey, always fun when Montana and Montana State get after it, but even more fun when there's a little bit on the line, and you have that this weekend.
No doubt. I've covered this rivalry for 11 years now, and this is the biggest game I can remember, at least probably of the decade, and maybe in that entire duration, as far as both teams having something to play for. So, I mean, Montana brings a 13-game winning streak into this game in the rivalry, but Montana State has won 8 out of 10, while the Grizzlies have been trying to find their footing as of late. So, with a bye pretty much on the line, as well as just a spot in the conference standings, it's a pretty huge game on Saturday in Bozeman.
Tyler Hall's already moved into the Big Sky record books. Do you think he's a front runner for the league's MVP?
Oh, man, there's so many guys that are right there. I think Quinn Hooker is right there. I think Jeremy Sanglin from Weber State is right there. Tyler Hall certainly is as well. The thing that's going to be so fun to watch about Tyler Hall is he's sitting there going blow for blow with a lot of these guys in the league, and he's only a sophomore. So if he does end up staying, there's a lot of speculation. He might test the waters. He might declare for the draft. There's a lot of speculation around Bozeman as what his future holds. But if he does stay, he's going to obliterate a lot of Big Sky records. Yeah. So I think that I don't necessarily know if he's the MVP this year, but if he stays, I think he certainly is the front runner for that award each of the next couple years.
Yeah, no doubt about that. We saw a battle for first place last weekend. North Dakota defeated Weber State for the league lead. And I'm not sure a lot of people, I think we all knew North Dakota was capable of it, but I think still some people were surprised that they were able to go in and get Weber State the way they did. So when you've watched this Fighting Hawks team, what stands out to you? What makes them so difficult, and what makes them at this point, record-wise, the best team in the conference?
Well, I think that the way that they can play, this is a guard-heavy league, but the three guards that they can play simultaneously, when you're talking about Quentin Hooker, Gino Crandall, and Corey Baldwin, I think that's probably the most quality group in the league. They can get up and down, and the reason is those guys are such good two-way players. There's a lot of really good offensive guards in this league, but to me, Gino Crandall might be the biggest difference maker because he can go out and get you 19 points and 6 assists like he did last weekend, but he can also hold a guy like Jeremy Sanglin to 1 of 6 from behind the arc. So as far as North Dakota goes, they are a team that's gotten up and down with everybody this year. They control the pace as well as anybody in the league. But the fact that they slapped a zone on Weber State and held Weber State to 2 of 12 from behind the three-point line, you got to remember Weber State is leading the country in three-point field goal percentage. So to go and do that, that's a pretty strong effort. So, a huge win by North Dakota, one of their biggest since they joined the Big Sky. And, it exposed a little bit of a vulnerability in Weber State. And Weber State, it is not going to be easy for them down the stretch. They still have Eastern Washington, Montana State, and Montana left to play. So there's a whole bunch that could be decided. We've been talking about Weber being the front runner here for the last month or so. But now, all of a sudden, we got a big jumble there, and there's about 5 teams that could finish anywhere between 1st and 5th.
That's a good point. All right, so we have 2 weeks until the Big Sky tournament down in Reno. Do you think there's a team that's maybe outside of Weber State or North Dakota, a team that we're not talking about or giving enough love to, that has a chance to go in there and win this thing?
Well, I think that it's going to be hard to sleep on a team like Montana State. I mean, I think that you mentioned Tyler Hall, just how prolific of a scorer he is. He can boost you to a lot of different ways to win. But the fact that the Bobcats have gotten hot, they found their identity. To me, the key for them is Sam Newman. He's only about 6'5", but he's been able to find a niche and battle at the center position. I mean, on Saturday against Sac State, who's one of the biggest teams in the league, Newman went out and had 17 points and 10 rebounds. So if he can give them that sort of production, combined with the fact that Hall is an elite player in this league, and Harold Frey, the true freshman point guard, has made so much progress, I think Montana State is definitely a threat here. But you also have to look at a team like Eastern Washington. I mean, Jake Wiley is probably the most unstoppable player in this league. No one really has an answer for him. So I think that there's a multitude of teams that are right there. If Montana can find their early season form, they could make a run as well. So it's going to be a really fun tournament.
Well, Colter, great to chat with you as always. We got one more full week left, and then it's off to Reno. We appreciate your time.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Colter Nuanez from Skyline Sports here on the Sports Graphics phone line. You can catch all his great content on SkylineSportsMT.com. That's SkylineSportsMT.com. By the way, some tiebreakers on the women's side that you want to keep an eye on as you go through the weekend. First off, Southern Utah, Montana, and Northern Arizona, they're all guaranteed to play in the opening round of the tournament. Then you got North Dakota, who is guaranteed a top 4 seed with a win in any of its final 3 games and is guaranteed at least the 2nd seed if that win is over Northern Colorado coming up this Saturday. That's just a couple things to keep a close eye on as you get ready for what should be another weekend of great college basketball around the Big Sky Conference. And make sure to download the app and watch BigSky.com, where you can catch all the action up close and in person. All right, that'll do it for this week. Make sure to go to RoadToReno.com, get your tickets, and book your hotel rooms for the upcoming Big Sky Basketball Championship. It's all online at RoadToReno.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Gerard. Austin Horton helping putting things together. As always, this is another edition of This Week in Big Sky Basketball.